Hello. Oh. Hello there. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm trying to figure out how to use this thing. Hey, I'm trying to figure out how this works. If somebody is able to send a Q&A or anything. Hi, is that from you, Tiffany, that sent the question? This technology is kind of neat. I'm not seeing how to enable just a normal chat feature so people can talk to each other. I know that you're there, Tiffany. I just can't see anything that you're typing, but if you have a question, please don't hesitate to just post it using the Q&A feature. What you need to do is in the upper corner right there, there's a little grid icon. You click on that, and that'll show a Q&A link. And then whoever's here can post any questions, and I can answer the questions. There should be a chat feature enabled, but so far I'm not able to figure it out. I'm going to try unmuting people's audio and video. Let's see. All right, now I think I'm unmuting everybody's audio and video. Let's see how that works. What else is here? Oops, didn't mean to do that. Sorry, still here. I'll blame people for leaving. It's confusing to me. Hello. Trying to figure out how to use this. I don't know if you're trying to contact via audio or video. So far, I don't think I have that working, but you should be able to use the online Q&A feature. To do that, just in the upper right hand corner, there's an icon grid. Click on that, and you can ask a question. Hi, welcome. I'm testing this feature. If you want to ask a question, post a question, click in the upper right hand. There's an icon that looks like a grid. Click on that and you can post a question. Let me know that you're here. Right now I'm still trying to figure this thing out. Turn on chat for okay. That can't be it. Is there anybody out there? Any questions? Nothing? weird. I'm presenting to everyone. I don't even know what that means. My profile? If you're watching this and trying to figure out how to send me a message and it's not working, send me an email on my St. Thomas account. Just log into your email. I feel like a dope just looking into the screen, trying to figure out if anybody's there. Hi. Okay. Hi, Rosie. Hi, Tiffany. Okay, I'd be happy to answer some questions. Sure. Let's see. First, are you able to use chat? I'll answer your questions in a sec, but I have like a chat feature that's able to be used, but it says I'm the only member of the video call, but I know that the three of you are there. It's weird. Oh well, it really doesn't matter. Anyway, let me go back and see the questions y'all were asking. I'd be glad to explain the final factor. Give me a second. I'm going to pull up the handout and we're going to look at it together. Let's see. I think I can share screens, which is a pretty neat thing about this software. Alrighty, going to go to nathenson.org. Alrighty. Okay. Go to screen sharing. All right, you should be able to see this now. To find stuff on the website, oftentimes what you can do is go to any of the pages, and the upper part of the page is a little search box, and you type in whatever. So I typed in reasonableness factors, and here we go. Here's the page. All right, so you should be able to see that. Okay, let's see. Now, Tiffany, your question is about the final two reasonableness factors. And your question, it regards the final factor, okay? But I think I'm going to explain the final two factors because I don't think you can understand the factor number 5 without taking a look at factor number 4. The difference between factors number 4 and 5 is 4 is about procedural stuff, about efficiency, right? Think of procedural values we talk about in class, like economy, efficiency, things like that. Factor 5 is not about things that matter to courts, like economy or efficiency, but rather things that matter to society as a whole, right? Social justice, things like actual rights. So the difference between 4 and 5 is 4 is all about what's a good place to have litigation, right? And factor 5 is about, is this the kind of litigation that society wants to promote? Okay, so factor 4 is looking to things about where the witnesses are located, where the evidence is located. Is it going to be easy or hard to get process or jurisdiction over additional witnesses or additional parties? And, you know, this factor can point to several places. Think of, for example, the Amazon hypo that we've talked about in class, in the ALI sessions. And, you know, it's probably fair to say that a lot of the evidence in that case was in France, right? So that factor might tilt away from reasonableness. It might be more efficient to litigate in France. Factor 5 is not about procedure or where stuff is located, evidence, but instead you have to consider the affected states or countries. So think of Amazon. That would be, for instance, France and California would be interested states. So would Delaware and Georgia, because that's where Amazon was located. And finally, the state of New York, that's where Peter Parker was from. And then consider the cause of action, right? In that hypo, the cause of action was one for torts, okay? So I'll think about the substantive law of torts, and then what are the public policies behind torts? And, you know, I don't know specifically what your torts prof said or what you guys have discussed regarding torts, but I would think policies behind, say, a negligence cause of action would include making sure that a victim gets compensation and making sure that compensation is paid for by the best cost avoider there. That would be, you know, either the driver or the employer, so on and so forth. And then ask, is that interest in providing these kind of tort recoveries, is that an interest, a substantive interest regarding social policies, right? One that's shared by the relevant states here, France, California, New York, and so on. That's the kind of stuff you got to talk about factor 5, all right? Factor 4 is about procedural efficiency. Factor 5 is about social justice in light of the substantive law that's at issue in that cause of action. All right, so that's my response to your question there. So we don't have chat working, but Tiffany, why don't you at least just use the question feature to let me know whether or not, you know, that was responsive to your question, okay? And I'm gonna go back to the video, and we're back. Cool. So this seems to be working at least in part. Okay, now Rosie, hi, how are you? Rosie has a question. This is actually kind of neat. I just wish we could have, you know, actual chat going back and forth for a little bit more interaction. Let's see, Rosie's question is, I have a question to read PJ also. Do we do that to establish PJ for any other type of COA like torts, not just stream of commerce? Rosie, could you clarify your question a little bit? When you say, do we do that to establish PJ, what do you mean? Do you mean, do we analyze all of the reasonableness factors? So do me a favor, please, and clarify your question. But while you're thinking about clarifying it, let me just respond to the question. The reasonableness factors need to be addressed in any specific jurisdiction fact pattern, right? So once you've determined the specific jurisdiction is reasonably raised, that it's at issue, then go through the whole analysis, right? The purposeful availment, giving rise, and reasonableness. So you would want to address reasonableness, including all 5 of the reasonableness factors. In contrast, keep in mind that if general jurisdiction is raised by the fact pattern, then you're not going to be talking about reasonableness. You might even want to point that out, right? That reasonableness factors are not addressed in a general jurisdiction fact pattern, and that's because of footnote 20 of Daimler. So perhaps that's responsive to your question, Rosie. If not, just post a clarified question. Okay. All right. There we go. Now, I can see we have 4 people online. Hi, how you doing? As of right now, I'm not able to tell who's logged online. Oh, well. I'll hopefully figure that out. In the meantime, I see that I have 4 people online, so just FYI, although chat doesn't seem to work yet, what you can do is, if you have a question, how do we do this? There we go. If you have a question, oh, there we go. You have a question. There's a little icon up there. It looks like a grid, a bunch of boxes. Click on that, and there's a Q&A icon. And any questions you have, you can post there. And I'll address any reasonable questions that you guys would like to ask. I hope this is helpful towards you. This is certainly a lot easier and more convenient to me than having to go into campus the day after Thanksgiving. Or you guys having to come in as well. And these aren't even the official office hours. I'll do this again tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and I'll post the link for you all to see. I see a message from Tiffany. Tiffany, you're very welcome. Rosie, I agree with you. I wish you could just verbalize your question. Later today, I will try to figure out how to enable chat. You would think that would just normally work. Obviously you're logged in using your Google account, so you should be able to just do chat. It's probably some problem on my part, right, that I haven't enabled chat. I mean, I've looked in settings. All right. The public is invited. To shortcuts. Hello, I see we have 5 people here now. I haven't got chat working yet, but any questions you have, just click in the upper right hand, and there's a little grid icon, and you can post questions there, and I'm answering questions as they come in. And at the same time, I am beta testing, so I greatly appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with me a little bit this afternoon, and that's enabling me to beta test and figure out how this thing works. Let's see. I do wish I could figure out how to get chat to work. Just normal old chat. No. That's not it. Okay. All right. Well, let me just get to the questions. So this is worth your time. So let's see. Rosie, you were asking about the 3 views as to purposeful availment. Well, keep in mind, Rosie, that there's more than just one view regarding purposeful availment. There's more than 3 as well. I'm taking the 3, you mean the 3 stream of commerce views, okay? But before I address that, keep in mind that stream of commerce is only relevant. The 3 views of stream of commerce are only relevant in a stream of commerce fact pattern, right? Which is when a finished product or a component product goes through the stream of commerce from manufacturing manufacture to distribution to ultimate sale. In any fact pattern, you can still just look at other contacts and just ask whether or not they're purposeful contacts that are from which the defendant gets that quid pro quo with the forum stay, right? And you can also look at other ways of establishing purposeful availment, right? Such as the Walden-Calder test for remote intentional torts, such as the considerations regarding contracts in Burger King, or case matching with similar cases and similar fact patterns in other cases, like international issue and taxes, and the reimagining of Hess, as discussed in international issue, and so on. So purposeful availment can be shown in a bunch of different ways, and one of the big things about the cases is they show different ways of addressing purposeful availment in different fact patterns, right? Because there's a million different ways to for defendant to purposefully reach out to the forum state. Now, to respond directly to your question. So say you've got a stream of commerce fact pattern, and you're going to have to analyze purposeful availment in the alternative, 3 different ways, which could lead to different results depending on the facts and depending on which view the court uses. Okay, now first, some courts will choose one view, some courts will choose another view, some courts just have never decided, right? The Brennan view is generally the easiest one to satisfy. That's known as the just the old stream of commerce view. In a nutshell, what Brennan says is, as long as the defendant is aware the goods are being ultimately sold in the forum state through regular and anticipated sales, then that is sufficient to establish purposeful availment. So, for example, in the Asahi case, Brennan thought that since Asahi was aware that his valves were being incorporated into tubes and tires that ultimately were going to be sold regularly in California, that was enough to show purposeful availment. O'Connor is known as the stream of commerce plus view, right? So that means, at a minimum, that to satisfy the O'Connor view, you first, as a necessary condition, have to satisfy the Brennan view. But satisfying the Brennan view is not by itself sufficient to satisfy the O'Connor view. To satisfy O'Connor view, you additionally have to show one or more of her so-called plus factors. In other words, things that show not just awareness that the goods will be sold in the forum state, but additionally that the goods are being purposefully directed, in her words, to the forum state. So she gives examples such as advertising directed to the forum state, the products being designed for the forum state, hiring sales agents for the forum state, or establishing regular channels of advice in the forum state. One or more of those factors combined with satisfying Brennan's view would satisfy O'Connor. Okay. And the third view is Stevens, which he points, it seems to be a more kind of free-riding totality of the circumstances view. He lists factors as volume, value, and hazardousness of the goods. So his view seems to be a little less defined. Of course, he accuses O'Connor of misapplying her own view, her own test under the facts of Asahi. So in short, Rosie, I understood your question to be asking specifically about the 3 views of PA and stream of commerce. I hope that was responsive to your question. Now I see we have, and you're very welcome, by the way, very welcome. Let's see. I do see we have like 5 viewers in the room, so welcome. This is certainly isn't like the viewership that you'd see for the Today Show, but you know, I still have the neat little in the bottom. You see that right there? Just like Matt Lauer has. So I see 5 people are here. Some of you might have questions. I've got the chat work. I've got the video working, obviously, and it appears that I have the audio working. So hopefully that's working well for you. I have not yet figured out how to make just plain old vanilla chat work. So that's a pain in the neck. So it makes it a little harder for you guys to communicate with me. But what you can do in the meantime is look in the upper right-hand corner. You'll see a little grid icon, all right? Click on that grid icon, click on Q&A, and you can send me a question. or not. Well, I hope that everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I did. I got together with my family and I made, well, we all cooked, but I made the turkey. Turkey came out well. It came out a little drier than I would have wanted. I probably should have taken it out about 10, 15 minutes earlier, but it was very tasty. Use it on a garden recipe. Really, making a turkey breast is very easy. You know, anybody can do it. You just have to take care not to overcook it. Again, if anybody has any questions, just click in that upper right-hand icon, click the grid. If nobody has any questions, then I'm going to chill here for a while. I'm going to be online for a little bit longer, and I'm going to try to figure out how to enable chat. So I'll keep on yakking. And if you have any questions, just use the question feature. But right now, what's making me nuts is trying to figure out how to enable chat. How to enable text chat, all right, in Google Hangouts. There we go. All right. That doesn't work. Okay, I see we have another question here. Oh, Tiffany, that's a wonderful question. I'd be very happy to answer that. All right, guys, let me read Tiffany's question. It's a good one. Looking at a previous exam for venue, she's asking, looking at where the event occurred, I am struggling with which place would be the most substantial. Would it be Manhattan or would it be Brooklyn? Now, of course, your question, Tiffany, refers to my examination for the Revengers, which is an exam from 3 or 4 years ago. Now, what I'm going to do here, give me a sec, I'm going to pull up the general venue statute, all right, 28 U.S.C. 1391. All right, here we go. There's the statute. I'm going to enable the view of that statute online in just 1 second. There we go. All right, I'm going to share the screen with you. Alrighty, let's go to screen share. All right. All right, y'all, you should be able to see the screen. Okay. Now, the question that Tiffany is asking assumes that there's one place that satisfies 1391 B1, or excuse me, B2. All right. Let me get out my pen. Here's 1391 B2. That should be highlighted there. Yes, it is. And what's confusing you is you think erroneously that there's only one place that can satisfy 1391 B2. But that's not the case. It used to be back in the 60s, I think, that the venue statute said there's venue in the district that gave rise to the cause of action. And compare that text, the district, from the old statute with the current text, which says not the judicial district, but a judicial district, in which a substantial part of the events or omission giving rise to the claim occurred. Okay, that suggests that there can be multiple places where venue can be appropriate. Okay, so the facts of that fact pattern in that exam was there was a battle waging. In fact, it's taken in large part out of the movie Avengers, right? So there's a battle waging over Manhattan, and that battle goes over Manhattan and Brooklyn, and ultimately debris from the battle falls onto the plaintiff's car in Brooklyn, destroying the car. All right, so the cause of action is for the destruction of the car in Brooklyn. The question is, under B2, what judicial districts are appropriate under 1391 B2? And you can argue it in several ways, but ultimately you might conclude that venue is appropriate in the districts corresponding to both Manhattan, where the battle started, and the district corresponding to Brooklyn, where the car was destroyed, because those are both arguably substantial. Those are both districts where a substantial part of the events giving rise to the claim occurred. Those particular districts are respectively, the Southern District of New York and I believe, oh gosh, I can't even remember. I think it's the Eastern or Western District of New York. No, Eastern District of New York, I think, is where Brooklyn is, but you'd have to look at the fact pattern and the information given in the fact pattern. So ultimately, though, Rosie, thing to take away from this is there can be multiple places to satisfy 1391 B2. Hope that's responsive to your question. I see another question. Let's see. From Rosie, do we have to talk about the 3 tests to establish domicile for an individual defendant? That depends, Rosie, on the call of the question. So the call of the question is your friend, and you never want to offend your friend. So if the call of the question gives rise to the need to discuss domicile, and the cause of the question is silent on which test to use, then of course, yes, you should answer in the alternative using all 3 approaches. In contrast, if the call of the question if the call of the question gives rise to the need to discuss domicile, and it tells you to use the majority approach, then of course you would only use the majority approach. So, a corollary to my admonition that you have to avoid negative issue spotting, right? And you don't want to bring up issues that would piss off Justice Scalia. Equally so, you have to view the call of the question, right? So pay really close attention to the cause of the question. So again, regarding domicile, make sure you read that cause of the question, and that should guide you. Okay, hope that's responsive to your question. I think I already answered this one. I just didn't click it through. All right, so welcome. This is a beta test of Professor Nathenson online. This is working really well. I see we have a whole bunch of people online, so welcome to all of you. Hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. The only feature that I have yet to properly enable is the one that allows you guys to chat amongst yourselves and chat with me. And I wish I could actually get that working. But rather than making you sit there while I screw around with that, I'm just gonna handle things the way I've been for the past 15-20 minutes, which is to take questions through the Q&A feature. So here's what you do. Upper right hand, there's a grid icon. It's like 9 little boxes. All right, click on that, click on Q&A, and you can send me questions directly, and then it'll give me your name, and then I can respond to your question. And then, if I can figure out how to get the chat feature to work, then this would be even greater. That would be cool. Oh, Rosie, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Okay, good. So even if you don't have a question but just want to say hi, please go ahead and say hi and let me know who's here. And, I just want to say how your Thanksgiving is or how you're doing. Would love to see that, because otherwise it's kind of weird for me to sit here talking to a picture of myself on the screen, right? I'm not used to looking at myself directly on the screen while I talk. So yeah, I guess this is what Matt Lauer or, Katie Kirk or whatever feel like, not that I'm them, though. Kind of weird watching your professor talking to you on your computer screen, isn't it? Hello, I see we got some folks here. We got some new folks. You can post questions online. The chat doesn't work yet. Sorry about that, but everything else seems to be working great. So to pose a question, all you got to do is right up there. There's a icon. 9 little boxes. Click on it, click on Q&A, and send me your questions. Making me nuts that I can't see who's online. That's just such a bummer. Hello, Denise. How are you? How was Thanksgiving? Do we need to know relation back rule 15 for the final? That's a good question. I'm curious why you asked that. Maybe you saw it on one of my past exams, or wondering if you need to know it. Or perhaps you watched my pleadings review and saw that I talked about relation back. I will be very happy to answer this question directly. The answer for the fall final is no. Definitely, you don't need to know relation back yet for the fall final. It hasn't been assigned. We haven't read it. It hasn't been discussed. I would not expect you to know it. To the extent that you see me discussing relation back on some of my review videos, that's because some of the review videos cover stuff from the fall and the spring. So there'll be stuff there that we haven't yet covered. But please don't worry about that. You'll know from my past exams that I do tend to test from time to time on relation back, but that is not going to be happening as part of your fall exam. So please don't worry about that for the fall exam. So you are very welcome, Denise. All right. Answer that. Yeah. Thank you, Rosie. Okay. So again, I see we have a whole bunch of people online, most people being shy, not wanting to say anything. I don't know. Are you guys able to see each other's questions? I guess you are, right? If somebody posts questions, you can like click on it to give it a +1 to say like, hey, yeah, I really want that question to be posted. Well, to take advantage of the question and answer feature, whoop, wrong way. There we go. Right about there. There's an icon. There's an icon, and it click on it, click on Q&A, and you can post a question for me. And so I've been answering a bunch of questions about stream of commerce, some of your most popular subjects, all the subjects that the viewers at home need to know about. Stream of commerce, venue, all sorts of fun stuff. Denise, do we need to know how to discuss summary judgment for the final? No, it hasn't been assigned yet. Denise, it's good that you're watching lots of my videos. You'll hopefully very helpful for you. But just to be clear, the stuff that could be on the final is stuff that that was assigned, right? So look at the assignments page, or stuff that we discussed in class. Okay, that's the scope of the final. Stuff that hasn't been assigned or stuff that hasn't been discussed in class is not fair game for the final. It would be unfair and unrealistic for me to test you on summary judgment. We won't cover that till the spring. So don't worry about it. You don't have to ask about stuff that we haven't covered yet. You know, yes, you see it on my videos, right? But that's because I have well over 40 videos on my Nathenson YouTube channel, stuff which includes not just the fall semester, but additionally the spring semester, and additionally materials given with an eye towards the bar exam. So don't worry about that. You know, usually I don't answer these, the do I need to know something, the final question, but your question, I definitely want you to be clear that you don't have to know that. So there you go. That answered. All right. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Victor B. Hi. Okay, that was Victor's question. Denise says that was Victor's question. Hi, Victor. How are you? I wish, does anybody know how to use Google Chats and to get the actual chat feature enabled, or if anybody wants to actually appear via videos so we can see each other? That would make it a lot more personal. I just, for the life of me, can't figure out how to enable the chatting feature. And I see we have a whole bunch of people online. So let me say welcome to all of you. Let me say how very, very sad it is that it's the Friday after Thanksgiving and you are there glued to your computer screens looking at me talking. You really need to get a life. Okay, I'm just teasing. All right, I see a question from Jackie. Hi, Jackie. Let's see. Let me select this. So I think this means you can all see the question. You read it. The answer, I'm going to give you the quick answer, then I'm going to give you the more detailed answer, and also I'm going to pull up the Coggle. So give me a second. Nathenson, for those of you playing at home, if you want, you can pull up the Coggle, or I'm just going to pull it up on my screen. I'll be able to show you my Coggle. This is a very neat feature of Google Chat. Alrighty then. Give me a second. First of all, let me read the question. Regarding the Revengers exam, that's from, I think, 4 years ago, when analyzing PJ, whether based on jurisdiction over person or property, if the person files in federal court, do we look at rules 4N and 4K1A rules in the PJ Coggle chart first and then switch over to state court? Okay, Jackie, here's the short answer. The short answer is yes. Let me give you a more detailed answer, and I'm going to switch over to all right, the Coggle. Let me make sure that this is showing on your screen. You should be able to see the Coggle. How neat is that? All right, I'm going to keep talking. Now, whenever you're in federal court, you want to start off on this side of the chart, okay? Federal court. If you're in state court, just start out here and don't even bother with the federal court. If you're in federal court, well, the basis for analyzing PJ over property in federal court, you have to start with Rule 4N, okay? Start with Rule 4N, 4N1 and 4N2. If you're in federal court and you want to analyze in personam jurisdiction, you have to start with Rule 4K. And usually the basis that will end up being used is 4K1A. But it's possible that the other parts of 4K might be at issue as well. The bulge rule in 4K1B, the specialized federal statute in 4K1C, or the federal long arm in 4K2. But in any case, to analyze PJ in federal court for property, start with 4N, and then for in personam, start with 4K and analyze any parts of 4K reasonably raised by the fact pattern. Then you move over to the right-hand side, right? So if property is at issue, start with 4N, then move over to the right-hand side of the Coggle, analyze the state rule regarding property, and then analyze 14th Amendment regarding property, okay? Regarding in personam, start over here at Rule 4K, and then move over to the state court in personam part of the analysis. Okay, so for example, if you're using 4K1A, that says analyze PJ as a corresponding state court would. In other words, long arm plus 14th Amendment due process. Well, then here's state court, in personam, analyze state long arm statute, and then 14th Amendment due process. So I hope that's responsive to the question. Being that I don't have a chat feature enabled, just please feel free to use the Q&A feature, Rosie, or was that Jackie's question? Gosh, I don't even remember. Give me a sec. Let's see, answer questions. Oh, there we go. Jackie. Jackie, just please feel free to send me a quick a Q&A just to let me know if that answered your questions. And I'm going to move on to the next one. Can you do a refresher on in-rem and quasi-in-rem in Part 1 and Part 2A and B? I want to understand the chart a little bit better. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. First, let me pull that up. Again, what I'm doing here is using nathenson.org. And I'm going to pull up the in-rem. Now, keep in mind that you can also see this stuff in the review video from Friday. I believe that I went through this chart on Friday, but I'll go through it again a little bit today. Be happy to do that. Let me pull up. Oh, you're very welcome, Jackie. Thank you for responding. Okay, Jackie was right to let me know that it was helpful. Alrighty, let's go to share the screen. This seems to be working out well. The only thing that is bumming me out is that we don't have the chat feature. So, you know, it just makes it less fun for me because I'm not able to get more interaction from you guys. All right, here we go. Schaffer's treatment of in rem and quasi in rem. The question was a brief review. Oh crap, I pulled up the wrong thing, so let me get the one that I want. In rem. No. Where is it? Check. Oh, here we go. You see, on the website, if you type in quasi into the search box, okay, you see that up top? Quasi, there's a search box. Ignore the stuff where it says back W pup in the top. That's my admin control panel. But if you search for quasi, you'll get my old handout, Schaffer's treatment of in rem and quasi in rem, as well as Schaffer's framework explained. Now, the Schaffer's framework explained is the one that I created for your review. Now, I think to understand Schaffer's treatment of in rem and quasi in rem, you need to think about this in terms of the minimum contacts framework, and his discussion is actually kind of elegant, and I think bears the test of time. All right, so the big thing to think about with Schaffer is what's the relationship between the property and the lawsuit, right? Now, think about specific jurisdiction, right? The specific jurisdiction require as many contacts as general jurisdiction? And the answer to that rhetorical question is no. Sometimes specific jurisdiction can be premised upon even one contact. Well, what if that one contact was the presence of property in the forum state? Okay. Well, if there's a really close relationship, a really close nexus between the property and the nature of the lawsuit, then maybe the presence of the property would be enough for jurisdiction. And that's what Marshall's framework does. So in rem and quasi in rem 1, in both of those, property is the subject matter of the suit, right? And Marshall says it would be unusual for there not to be jurisdiction over the property. Now, why is this? It's an easy case of specific jurisdiction. Property is in the state, so obviously it is a purposeful availment towards the state. The property gives rise to the suit because the property is the subject of the suit. So whether you use the evidence test or the but-for test, then the property is going to give rise to the suit. Because the property is in the forum state, it would seem to be not particularly burdensome to have jurisdiction over the property, so it would be unusual for there not to be jurisdiction over the property. This is an easy case of specific jurisdiction. Now, with quasi-rem type 2A and 2B, the property is either related to the suit, although not the subject matter of the suit, right? Or the property is unrelated to the suit. All right. Well, the difference between these three, subject, related, or unrelated, all goes to whether or not, oh, did I just get rid of the, sorry, I need to get rid of the screen share. Let me get that back. There we go. It all has to do with how close the relationship is between the property and the suit. All right. Say the property is related to the suit, but is not the subject matter of the suit. Right. That's quasi and rem type 2A. Think of, for example, somebody who owns a property in the forum state, but the lawsuit is not trying to get possession or ownership of the property. The lawsuit's not about who owns the property. The lawsuit is instead about a slip and fall on the property, right? Or something fell off of a roof of a property and bonked somebody in the head, right? Well, here, Marshall says the presence of the property may also favor jurisdiction. So instead of it being unusual for there not to be jurisdiction, there maybe is going to be jurisdiction, right? So easy case of jurisdiction, hard case, or excuse me, a little bit harder case of jurisdiction, all right? Well, this is a case of possible specific jurisdiction, like the roof tile that falls and bonks you in the head, right? You're not suing for a possession of the property, but there's a relationship, a relationship between the property and the suit. Here, you'd have to go through the specific jurisdiction analysis. The property's there, so the property is purposefully availing itself of the forum. Did the property give rise? Well, go through the evidence test and the but-for test. But for the roof being there in the house, no tile would have fell on somebody's head, so that would give rise under the but-for test. Would the property be evidence of the claim? Probably so, right? So, and equally so, the property's there, so probably yes, jurisdiction would not be unreasonable. So, depending on the facts, the presence of the property may favor jurisdiction. It's just easier to show it for quasi in rem type 1 because the property is the whole focus of the suit. And in 2A, the property has a relationship to the suit, but that relationship is perhaps more attenuated. Now compare quasi in rem type 2B. All right. Property is unrelated to the suit. That's like the facts of Schaffer, right? Well, presence of the property alone is insufficient and you would need more context. And why is that the case? Well, that's because if the property is completely unrelated to the suit, that means you'd have to have enough context to justify either A, general jurisdiction, or B, specific jurisdiction based on other contexts. Now let's look at this. Start off with specific jurisdiction. If the property in the state, yeah, it purposefully avails. Does it give rise to the claim? Nope, because there's no relationship between the property and the suit. That means there's no specific jurisdiction, right? And as far as the reasonableness is concerned, it doesn't matter because there's no specific jurisdiction. And if there's no specific jurisdiction, there's no specific jurisdiction. Well, in that case, you need more contacts that do give rise to the claim, right? And that allow reasonableness. And without more contacts, all you have is the property that's unrelated to the claim, which means that there's not going to be jurisdiction because otherwise, without more contacts, the exercise of PJ over unrelated property would be akin to allowing general jurisdiction over owner based merely on the ownership of that in-state property. So there we go on that. I hope that is responsive to your question. How would we, okay, we have one more question. Let's see. How would we discuss an essay about a motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim? That's been in several past essay questions. Let me pull up a handout. Now, I'm going to respond to this question only in part because that's kind of like the question that's been asked here is akin to asking how to answer a PJ question. And that would be something that would require a review of anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half. And that's not really something appropriate to do during an office hour. What I am going to do is first go to the Twiqbal handout, and I will go over it briefly. So here's what we're going to do. Okay. Go to the search box, type in Twiqbal, and then you'll see the listing for Twombly Twiqbal step by step. Here we go. We're going to go to that. All right. Now, if you get a 12B6, what issues you're going to have to talk about are going to depend on what issues are raised by the call of the question. All right. For example, if the cause of action is fraud, then 9B is going to be at play, right? And sometimes people will move to dismiss under Rule 12B6 because of a violation of Rule 9B, a failure to provide sufficient particularity regarding the circumstances of fraud or mistake. More typically, however, the analysis is going to require analysis of whether or not the complaint satisfies Rule 8A2, which requires a short and plain statement of the claim showing entitlement to relief. And that, again, can require a lot of things to be discussed. For example, if the problem is legal insufficiency, right, then you have to address whether the law even provides a remedy for the facts. So the example that I gave in class for that is a complaint for a failure to invite. Well, that's legal insufficiency. So you'd have to point out that the law doesn't provide a remedy there. The more common example is going to be factual insufficiency, right? Okay, and how would you analyze that? Well, first, ignoring what's on the screen right now, first you'd have to talk about fair notice. Does the complaint give sufficient notice such that the complaint gives the who, what, where, when of the complaint, enough detail the defendant knows who or what they're being sued for, right? And if so, then you move, of course, then into the second step, which is the Twombly-Iqbal analysis. Okay, I'm not going to go through this in every little detail, but I'll summarize. We talked about it in class. I sent you the handout. All right, there's 2 steps for Twombly-Iqbal. Step 1, separate the well-pleaded facts from the legal conclusions. Step 2, determine whether the claim is plausible. All right, that first step is a filtering step. You've got to figure out which of the allegations are facts, which ones are legal conclusions. To tell a legal conclusion, the easy way of telling that is it the threadbare recital of the elements of the cause of action, such as allegations of wrongfulness or negligence, things you would see cookie cutter put in any complaint. You may have to go word by word, okay? How do you treat legal conclusions? Well, they can provide the structure of a complaint. They can help to give fair notice, but they are ignored for purposes of Twiqbal. Facts are treated as being true unless they're fantastic. They defy reality. Now, what you do then is take all the facts and go to step 2. Is the claim plausible? Okay, well, here you got to use as your framework your cause of action, right? So, for example, if it's negligence, you need to consider duty, breach, causation, and damages. Look to the question, which will provide you with the necessary elements. All right, ask yourself, you've got these facts. Does a complaint provide facts for each and every necessary element of the cause of action? If it does, then the claim is almost certainly plausible, and that's the end of your analysis, right? But any fact pattern I give you for a Twiqbal, if it's a factual insufficiency fact pattern, we're going to be missing facts. So what are the holes in the facts, right? So, for example, in the Meg Stewie ones, it's that somebody breached, but we don't know whether it's Brian. The complaint never flat out says that Brian's the one that hit Meg's car. Okay, well, if facts are missing, then make inferences, right? What are the holes in the pleaded facts? And determine the inferences that can be made. So there, the inferences are that it was either Brian that did it or somebody else. Okay, you have competing inferences. All right. One version of the claim will create liability and one will not. So if the inference that it was Brian that done it, well, if we credit that one, then the claim would be plausible, right? If we credit the opposing inference that it wasn't Brian, the claim is not plausible. Well, to determine which one is plausible, you have to use common sense. You got to use life experience, use the pleaded facts, and just use your own observations here, right? Use common sense here, be my number one observation. So using common sense, which scenario is more likely? Is it the one where Brian did it, was driving the car, or is it the one where somebody else was driving the car? Okay, if it was somebody else, then if the version of the scenario is that somebody else was driving the car, then the claim is not plausible. But if it's more likely that Brian was driving the car, then the claim is plausible. So you have to weigh which inference is more likely. So here, plausibility, in my opinion, means which scenario is more believable. Okay? You don't have to show probability, but you have to show plausibility. But in my opinion, plausibility means which scenario is more likely. Okay? Now, beyond that, it's going to be rather long discussion, which would be kind of difficult to do in the context of a kind of unilateral review. So if you want to discuss this more, I'd refer you to one of the online videos. Okay, so hopefully that's responsive to your question. Let me go back and see what other questions people might have. Let's see. Thank you, Rosie. Let's see. I have a question here from Tucker. Hi, Tucker. How are you? I see I have a whole bunch of people in the room now, so this is kind of fun. Fun way to spend our day after Thanksgiving, huh? Well, hopefully it's helpful for you, and you're also helping me to figure out how to do this. The only thing that I haven't figured out how to do yet is the chat feature. So if anybody has a question or even just a comment, click in the upper right-hand corner. There is a grid icon, which provides a little Q&A icon, and you can post any questions or comments there. Hopefully by tomorrow, when I do this again, I'll have figured out how to have actually live chat, or even allow you guys to video back at me so we can actually see each other's faces, make it a little bit more interactive. All right, we have a question here. Denise, you're very welcome. Thank you. All right. Question from Tucker. Give me a second. Just to clarify, would you apply step 1 to every part and then step 2 to the complaint overall? After doing step 1, apply step 2 to every part of the complaint as well. Let me think about the question here. Let me think about what you mean by every part. Well, for step 1, here's what I think you should do. I'm assuming, and I'm sure correctly, that you're referring to the Twiqbal-Twombly analysis in a case involving factual insufficiency, and there's a 12b6 motion. All right. In step 1, you want to go through all of the allegations provided and ask, are they facts or legal conclusions, right? And the best way to do this is go paragraph by paragraph. You don't need to type in all the allegations, but you should go paragraph by paragraph. Like paragraph 52 talks about blah, 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 which is all facts because blah, 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 blah. However, the word blah, 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 or the phrase blah, blah is legal conclusion because whatever, right? So I do want you to go through all of the allegations, and it makes it a lot more readable for me and a lot more beneficial for you point-wise if you do it paragraph by paragraph, identifying the paragraph numbers. And then regarding step 2, yes, you're using the whole complaint, or I should say more specifically, all the supplied allegations. All of them are going to apply, going to be used in step 2, and you're going to use them in the following way. You're going to be taking the facts that you've divined from step 1, and then taking all those facts and using them in step 2 and asking whether the claim as a whole is plausible. And to determine that, you use the governing law as your framework, and you take those facts and ask, do I have facts for each and every element of the cause of action, right? So think like, Meg and Stewie. There's the one that says, Brian drives a blue Prius, or Brian has a drinking problem, and I was hit by a blue Prius, and whoever was driving was drinking out of a paper bag. Therefore, Brian was negligent, right? Well, all of the allegations except the last one are facts, right? It's what happened. Brian has a drinking problem. He drives a blue Prius. Meg was hit by a blue Prius. The driver of the blue Prius was drinking from a paper bag, right? Those are all facts. But the allegation that therefore Brian was negligent, that's a legal conclusion. All right. Well, you take all those facts without legal conclusion and use them in step 2, and you ask, wow, do I have everything I need here for a negligence claim? Let's see, duty. Duty, that's done by the court. Duty of reasonable care. All right. Well, that's not something you have to plead. All right. But the second element, breach. Was there a breach of the duty of reasonable care? Well, it says that somebody smacked into the car, right? So maybe that satisfies breach. All right. Causation and damages. Well, that car went out of the lane of traffic, right? That's not pleaded, but the car hit me, right? And caused my car to be damaged. All right. That's there too. So we have everything there to state a claim of negligence against someone, but we're lacking sufficient information to state a claim against Brian, right? Because there's no facts there alleging that Brian was the one driving the car. So what you do, Tucker, is you take the facts and you start making inferences. You speculate. Okay, what's one speculation we can make? Let's make a speculation that favors liability. It was Brian. That's one inference you can make. Let's now make a counter inference that would lead to no liability. Oh, maybe it was not Brian, right? So you have two competing inferences. All right. Well, to determine whether the complaint as a whole is plausible, you got to ask which scenario is more likely. The scenario where the facts plus the inference of it being Brian, or the facts plus the inference that it wasn't Brian. Okay. Which is more likely? Is it, let's see if I can get my hands together like this. Okay. So hand with the ring is it was Brian, right? And the hand without the ring is it wasn't Brian. Okay. Well, let's use our life experience and common sense. Are there lots of blue Priuses on the road? Yeah. Do people sometimes drink out of paper bags? Yeah. Is paper bag always have alcohol in it? Yeah, it might. It might. What else might it be? I don't know. Red Bull, a bottle of water, a bottle of milk. I don't know. More likely liquor. Maybe. I don't know. You don't want people to see you're drinking. Like a beer, or whatever in your car. So you have it in a paper bag. Brian's got a drinking problem, right? Yeah, he kind of does. Yes, maybe he would drive without a paper bag. But how many blue Priuses are there in South Florida? Oh, like 10 gazillion, right? So is it possible that Brian did it? Yeah. Is it possible that Brian didn't do it? Yeah. Which one's more likely, that it was Brian or somebody else? Probably it was more likely somebody else, right? Because there's lots of blue Priuses out there. And unfortunately, on the roads of South Florida, there's lots of drunks too. So you see, we've taken the facts that somebody's driving a blue Prius and smacked into Meg's car with a paper bag, right? Combined it with our common sense and said that even though it's possible that Brian was the person driving, it's far more likely it was just somebody else, right? You see, you're taking facts plus inferences, and then you're comparing which one's more likely. That's a way of talking about how these two steps, first step and second step, work together. They work together very closely, right? That you need to figure out what the facts are in the first step, and then use those to engage in the plausibility analysis in the second. So Tucker, I hope that was responsive to your question. So here we go. Please send me a short little Q&A response just to let me know if that was responsive to your question. All right, I see we have 16 viewers in here. Yeah, that's pretty awesome, I think. Considering it's Friday, it's people are sleeping or studying or whatever, shopping perhaps. Did anybody get out to Black Friday today? Do any shopping? Got a little bit with the Kohl's. It was fun. If anybody has any questions, you can click on the icon up there, little grid, and click on Q&A, and I'm happy to take a couple more questions. I'll take a couple more questions now. I've been on for about an hour. It's 4:40. It's going to be my dinner time soon. But I'll take one or two more straightforward questions. And Tucker, you're very welcome. I'm glad that my response was helpful to you. But I'm happy to take one or two more questions. And of course, I will be on a line again tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Hopefully by then I will have figured out how to get the chat feature to work, which will, I think, make this a whole lot more fun. That way you could probably send me questions directly or chat with each other. Oh, no Black Friday shopping. Oh, yeah, I know. Well, my wife and kids were out Black Friday shopping at 4:30 a.m. this morning, which I think is positively insane. Myself, I was not Black Friday shopping. Did go to Kohl's and went to Whole Foods for lunch, which is always very good. Rosie, you are very, very welcome. Rosie's thanking me for spending time today to virtually meet with you guys. This is fun for me as well. This seems like this is based on the beta test. This is a a success. So if you guys find this to be helpful, perhaps I will incorporate this into my future teaching, learning methodology, the arsenal of things that I use to try to help you guys. So let's see. Let's take one or two more questions, and then we'll call it a day. Okay, here's a question from Denise. And let me read this out to you. I'm assuming you guys can see each other's questions, but I'll read it anyway. When talking about notice, does it just need to be reasonable? Does the notice need to be reasonably calculated to get notice, or reasonably calculated for the D to know of the suit? It would be the latter. It would be the latter. Now think about it. The first part of the question: does notice need to be reasonably calculated to get notice? Of course, that's circular, right? notice calculated to give notice. So, don't think of it that way. Instead, think of what is the purpose of notice. The purpose of notice is to give actual knowledge to the affected persons so that they can defend and have a reasonable opportunity and notice to appear and to defend. Hi, Victor. Shabbat shalom to you as well. Have a wonderful day. Okay. Somebody's calling on the phone. Oh, well. But I'm not going to answer that. There's other people here. So instead, getting back to Denise's question, the purpose of notice is to provide information. Think rather than saying the purpose of notice is provide notice, because I think that's unhelpful for you as a learning experience. Think of the purpose of notice is to provide info, right? That then puts the receiving party in the position that they can then show up and defend and make all the arguments they have to. In fact, the purpose of notice is so important that the constitutional requirements of notice permeate procedural law, really a lot of it, right? Making sure the affected people have enough time to respond. So like the 21 days you get to answer the complaint, that's so you have a reasonable opportunity to appear and defend. That a complaint needs a short and plain statement of jurisdiction and of the claim and an assertion of the remedies sought. That's to provide information to the affected parties so they can show up and know what they're being sued for. And equally so, Rule 4 and 5 provide various notice requirements. Rule 4 for the summons and the complaint. And that's for purpose of the defendant knowing that they've been sued or what the consequences of default would be. So notice is not just about Rule 4. The constitutional requirement of notice is something that permeates many of the rules. What's specific regarding notice in Rule 4 is about the notice requirements for the summons of the complaint, right? So to satisfy Rule 4, you first have to satisfy the constitutional requirements. And second, you got to satisfy the requirements of Rule 4 itself, which are rule-based requirements, which are things like you got to be served, defendant got to be served the summons and the complaint, and it's got to be served by someone who's not a party. The summons has to be of a particular form, and the service has got to comply with certain requirements depending on whether the person is being served as an individual or a corporation or a minor, an incompetent person, or the U.S. government, and so on and so forth. So I hope that's helpful for your question. All right, we got 12 people here. I'm going to hang out here for a few more minutes in case anybody's got another question. Again, if you have a question, there we go. If you have a question, upper right-hand corner, click on the grid icon, click on Q&A. I'll chill here a couple more minutes in case somebody has a question. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up. Did everybody have good turkey? I hope you guys were able to spend time with your loved ones, be it friends or other loved ones or family. I hope nobody had to spend their Thanksgiving in the cafeteria. That would be, kind of a bummer. Okay. Well, I can see it's time to wrap it up. So thank you all for spending some time with me on your Thanksgiving holiday. I hope that this was very helpful for you. Have a great day. Tomorrow, once I have the link for the session, I will send it out via email. The session is going to start around 2 o'clock. You'll also be able to get information. Click over to the session by going to my Google Plus page. And I'll see if I can just have it linked to from the home page as well. Again, I'm experimenting with this, so I'm kind of figuring it out as I go along. You are all very welcome. You're welcome, Denise. The pleasure is mine. All right, so that's it for today. And have a great day. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye now.